There are some tasks in life that are so universally dreaded that when you finally finish them, it feels less like just checking off a box and more like a national holiday. We are talking, of course, about taxes. And today, we're going to dive into one man's absolutely epic celebration after conquering his annual return, all seen through the eyes of his very, very amused wife. And this is where our story kicks off, with a single triumphant shout that just echoes through a quiet home. With just those two words, "I'm done," an entire weekend is completely transformed. I mean, that is the sound of pure, unadulterated relief. That's the sound of a man who has just conquered his taxes. So, what exactly happens in those first few moments after such a monumental task is finally over? Well, a wave of just unfiltered joy, for one, and apparently a declaration that the seasons themselves have changed because of this one single act. Okay, picture this. The husband is taking a little victory lap around the living room. He's clapping for absolutely no one in particular. And his wife? Well, she's just quietly folding laundry, but the entire vibe of the room has just shifted. The space has suddenly become what she calls a celebration waiting room. He marches right over to the window, throws it open wide, and just declares that with this one task done, spring has finally officially arrived. Yeah, in his mind, him finishing the taxes literally caused the season to change. That fresh air coming in, that's not just a shift in the weather. That's a direct reward for all his hard work. And this is where you get that hilarious disconnect, right? As he's getting all worked up, yelling about how exciting spring is, his wife is having a slightly different internal monologue. See, that gust of wind he just let in is now scattering his pile of tax documents all across the floor. So to him, it's the wind of change. To her, it's just paper confetti. Oh, but the victory tour doesn't stop there. No way. He starts humming this old folk song about plum and cherry blossoms, a song so old, in fact, that he actually stops himself mid-hum to ask out loud, is this too old? It's just this charmingly silly moment that adds to the whole celebratory mood. So, despite all the silliness and the paperwork confetti, his wife finds herself smiling. I mean, there's just something so contagious about seeing someone that purely happy after finishing a huge project. And for a guy whose usual catchphrase is, "I'll do it later," beating a deadline is a really big deal. So she decides, you know what? Yes, this is absolutely a day worth celebrating. Okay, so right when you think this is just a simple, happy story, things take a sharp, deeply philosophical, and honestly, an utterly comical turn. See, the feeling of joy is no longer enough. Now it must be understood. The husband just stops dead in his tracks. The victory lap is over. He gets this super serious look on his face. He's just had this profound realization. This feeling is amazing, right? But wouldn't it be even better if he could perfectly articulate it and share it with the world? His joy has suddenly become this massive intellectual puzzle. And this is the brand new challenge he sets for himself. How do you take this personal, internal feeling of triumph and relief and turn it into content? How do you package it up so other people can experience it too? He's basically trying to solve the problem of modern communication right there in his living room. And what's wild is he actually breaks the problem down with surprising clarity. He starts musing out loud that, when you're in the same room, you can share feelings through facial expressions and your tone of voice. But to share it digitally, well, you need the perfect words, the right images, the right video. You have to somehow convey that same emotional temperature. And just like that, the pure elation of finishing his taxes is immediately replaced by a new, much heavier burden. The thing that brought him so much joy has now created what he calls a big problem. The solution has now become the new crisis. It's fantastic. But of course, a very modern problem like this, well, it requires a very modern solution. And just as his wife starts to kind of laugh at this self-imposed drama he's created, he has a total eureka moment. He claps his hands together, his face just lighting up all over again. It's like a light bulb just went off over his head. He's just remembered the absolute perfect consultant for this exact kind of existential content creation crisis, a new member of the team, if you will. And there it is. The solution to his profound human dilemma isn't a philosopher. It's not a poet. It's his new sidekick,
Chappy, his affectionate little nickname for ChatGPT. When in doubt, ask the AI.
I just love this. Because it's no longer just a tool, is it? It's a companion. With a nickname. Chappie is now the official go-to advisor for figuring out how to express the deepest of human emotions. The future is truly, truly now. All right, so this brings us to the final and really wonderfully reflective part of this whole story. Because it's not really about taxes or even AI when you get down to it. It's about what this little moment reveals about communication, connection, and, the changing seasons of our relationships. And what's so beautiful here is the wife's perspective. For her, this is actually progress. She's not annoyed. She's genuinely relieved that he's learning to ask for help, even if that help comes from an AI. She realizes that spring itself is a season of unclear positivity, and his clumsy attempts to express himself, well, they're like new buds, and her job is to not step on them. So ultimately, this story isn't about mocking a guy for turning to AI. It's actually celebrating the very human impulse behind it all, the desire to take a feeling of pure joy and share it with someone you care about. That's timeless. The tools we use to build that bridge might change, sure, but that fundamental desire to connect, that stays the same. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question, doesn't it? As we rely more and more on tools like Choppy to help us communicate, how is that going to shape the way we express ourselves? It's a story about one man finishing his taxes, sure, but it's also a story about all of us, really, just trying to find new words for our oldest and most powerful feelings.